Good morning, everybody. Today, Ratko Mladić is in the custody of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. For almost 16 years, he has evaded justice. Now, he must answer to the serious international crimes he has been charged with. We thank the authorities of the Netherlands for their excellent work in facilitating the transfer. On Friday, the 3rd of June, at 10 o'clock, Ratko Mladić will make his initial appearance before the tribunal. Ratko Mladić's transfer into the tribunal's custody is significant of many levels. For this tribunal, the transfer brings us closer to the completion of our mandate to hold accountable those most responsible for the serious crimes committed during the wars in the former Yugoslavia. As a result of the arrest, today only 1 out of 161 persons indicted by the tribunal remains at large. Of course, the trial of Ratko Mladić is much more than a statistic. Ratko Mladić was the highest-ranking Bosnian Serb military figure during the wars in Bosnia and Herzegovina. He's charged with responsibility for the role he and his military forces played in the violent criminal campaigns that swept across Bosnia and Herzegovina from 92 to 95. His crimes left communities broken and the nation torn apart. For international justice, Ratko Mladić's transfer to the tribunal is equally important. His arrest confirms that no one can count on impunity for war crimes. For the victims of the crimes alleged against Ratko Mladić, the transfer holds the most significance of all. 16 years is a long time to wait for justice. It is a long time to know that someone responsible for their trauma is walking free. We understand why the victims have been impatient for this day, and we recognize their courage. Without their support and involvement in our cases, this tribunal could have achieved nothing. Over the past month, we have been more and more critical of Serbia's unsuccessful efforts to capture Ratko Mladić. We asked for improvements in the operations carried out on the ground. Today, we are very pleased to acknowledge the Serbian authorities' success in arresting Ratko Mladić. We thank the President of Serbia, the Serbian National Security Council, and the members of the action team that has been tracking the fugitives. We also thank the security services which have worked towards Mladić's arrest. We ask the authorities in Serbia to continue the operational improvements that had led to Mladić's arrest. We want to see the remaining ICTY fugitive Goran Hadžić arrested without further delay. The international community has also played a significant role in bringing about Ratko Mladić's arrest. This arrest is proof that ending impunity requires a united front. We particularly thank the European Union for giving Serbia positive incentives to cooperate with the tribunal. We also acknowledge civil society, which has insisted on holding Ratko Mladić accountable and provided great support to my office on this issue. I must also mention the role played by the staff of this tribunal. We could say that people at this tribunal, who have worked hard over 16 years to bring about this day, are just doing their job. But I want to recognize the extent of their loyalty to the tribunal and their dedication to international justice. Their efforts are especially impressive given that we are working in the shadow of the tribunal's completion strategy and the resulting lack of job security for our staff. Let me turn now to the upcoming trial of Ratko Mladić. Why is it so important for us to prosecute Ratko Mladić? The answer to this question lies in his position of power and influence during the war. It also lies in the nature and extent of the atrocities committed. Ratko Mladić was a colonel, general, and commander of the main staff of the Bosnian Serb army. He was the most powerful military figure in Bosnia during the war. He's charged with crimes that shocked the conscience of the international community. These crimes symbolize the brutality of the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ratko Mladić is charged with genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, arising out of the following events: the violent ethnic cleansing campaigns that devastated the Bosnian Muslim and Bosnian Croat communities in large parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina between 1992 and 1995. These campaigns resulted in death and destruction, and they displaced entire communities. The shelling and sniping campaign that terrorized the civilian population of Sarajevo for more than 3 years between 1992 and 1995. The killing of over 7,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys in Srebrenica in 1995, and taking United Nations personnel hostage in May and June 1995. Today, we have filed an amended indictment against Ratko Mladić. We have done this to make sure the charges against Ratko Mladić reflect the most recent development in the Tribunal's case law. The amended indictment also provides more information about some of the charges brought. We know that an important responsibility now lies in our hands. I have no doubt that Mladić will receive a fair trial and that his rights will be respected. We will draw on the many lessons we have learned over the years to make the Mladić prosecution successful. Our challenge is to present a manageable case that reasonably reflects Ratko Mladić's alleged criminality and the harms suffered by the victims. We will need resources to complete the work that now lies ahead. The continued support of the international community will remain crucial to our success. Now, in conclusion, let me say that the full significance of Ratko Mladić's transfer to The Hague is difficult to fully express. I hear many people commenting that this arrest ends an important chapter of international criminal justice. But the process of establishing Ratko Mladić's accountability has only just begun. And we must not forget that the victims of many thousands of other crimes committed during the wars are still waiting for justice. Ultimately, the success of this tribunal will be measured by the success of the national prosecuting authorities in the region of the former Yugoslavia. These authorities are prosecuting the many cases not brought before this tribunal. Their work also deserves our support and recognition. Thank you very much. I'm prepared to take questions. Please.
Thank you for your press. Mr. Serge Brammertz, my name is Liu Qi from China Central Television. My question is, do you know, the son of Mladić has said his father was innocent and he is still poor condition. So do you think he can stand during the trial? And do you think he will face the same fate like Milosevic will die during the trial? Thank you so much.
Thank you. The registrar of the tribunal will be available for questions afterwards. So if you have questions in relation to the proceedings, the health situation, he will be happy to answer. It is clear that from our perspective, we want the best possible trial under the best possible circumstances. So all the rights of defense are very, very important. And of course, his health situation is a concern. But we have seen in the past that the tribunal take those issues extremely seriously and will make sure that the necessary medical assistance will be provided. Please.
You've said you'll draw on the many lessons that you've learned. What are those lessons and how will you draw on them? You know,
it is a fact that trials are taking a long time at this tribunal, which is logical if you look at the magnitude and the importance of crimes committed. You cannot compare trials at this tribunal with trials at the national level based on the magnitude, the number of individual crimes and the numbers of witnesses to be heard. But I think the tribunal over the last years has worked on the proceedings by, for example, using much more written evidence than in the past. We are also trying to, if I may say, streamline indictments. It's a very difficult balance to find for our office because on one hand, we want and have to show the importance and the magnitudes of crimes committed, giving really the necessary importance to all the victims. On the other hand, we are confronted with the necessity to have a manageable trial and to make sure that those trials are finalized in a reasonable time. So those are some of the issues we are looking at. Please.
Alain Franco, Radio 6 Romandais RTL. J'ai deux questions qui sont proches de mon collègue ici, mais je voudrais vous les poser en français. Je voudrais que vous me répondiez en français si vous le voulez bien. La première concerne justement les leçons que vous tirez de la traque de Mladić et sur la question de l'impunité, parce que c'est vrai que pendant 16 ans, de nombreuses personnes ont attendu cette arrestation et on en était venu à se poser la question, est-ce que finalement on verra Mladić ici dans le tribunal? Donc je voudrais savoir ce que vous en pensez, ce que ça signifie pour vous et pour la justice internationale. Et puis une question ensuite sur vos intentions concernant le procès. Est-ce que vous avez eu le temps, je pense, un petit peu de vous pencher sur cette question, d'y réfléchir? Est-ce que vous envisagez finalement, oui ou non, une jonction avec le procès Karadzic? Et est-ce que vous envisagez de réduire les charges, puisque vous êtes quand même sous pression de l'ONU pour aller le plus vite possible?
C'était déjà plus que 3 ou 4 questions, mais je vais essayer de répondre. Qu'est-ce que cela signifie? Quelle est l'importance de cette arrestation? Il est évident qu'il y a beaucoup de gens dans la région, ici au tribunal, qui ont attendu ce moment depuis très longtemps. Vous connaissez le chemin parcouru. Pendant les 16 dernières années, il y a eu des moments où nous avons douté de la coopération de la Serbie à ce niveau-là. Nous savons que dans le passé, des opportunités ont été ratées, probablement volontairement pour l'arrêter. Et aujourd'hui, nous reconnaissons que c'est un résultat important. Et notre reconnaissance à ce niveau-là va vers la Serbie. Vous savez que nous avons été très critiques ces dernières semaines et ces derniers mois par rapport à la recherche des fugitifs. Nous estimions que la Serbie ne faisait pas assez, que la Serbie devait travailler sur plusieurs pistes d'une manière simultanée et non pas successive. Voilà, aujourd'hui, nous voyons que cela a produit des résultats et nous sommes satisfaits. Cela étant dit, il est important que le dernier fugitif, Goran Hadžić, soit arrêté également. Et actuellement, nous continuons évidemment notre coopération avec les Serbies à ce niveau-là. Au niveau des suites pour l'acte d'accusation, nous avons finalisé et transmis au tribunal ce matin un acte d'accusation modifié qui prend en considération le développement de la jurisprudence ainsi que des nouveaux faits qui ont vu le jour depuis 1995, au moment où l'acte d'accusation initial a été délivré. Maintenant, est-ce qu'il y aura encore des changements au niveau de l'acte d'accusation? Il faudra le voir. C'est beaucoup trop tôt pour le dire. Please.
Thank you. My name is Branimir Farkas from Croatian Television. Is there a possibility to further amend the indictment so that it includes Mladic's responsibility for the crimes committed in the Republic of Croatia, particularly in the village of Škabrnja? And did you receive any contact, formal or informal, from the side of Croatian government or President's office on this matter, because they publicly announced they will do so? Thank you very much.
This is currently not the intention of my office. Thank you.
Oui, Pascal Verdeau, France 3. Si vous le permettez aussi, une réponse en français, Monsieur le procureur. Je voudrais prolonger la question et revenir sur la question de mon confrère Alain Franco concernant l'impunité. Nous, hier soir, devant la prison, on a été frappés par des témoignages de personnes qui étaient des musulmans bosniaques et qui nous ont dit, mais aussi des autochtones, qui nous ont dit finalement, il n'y aura plus désormais d'impunité pour à la fois les dictateurs qui ont commis des massacres ou des génocides. Je voudrais savoir là aussi quel est le message que vous pouvez envoyer effectivement à l'opinion internationale à ce sujet?
Il est clair que l'arrestation a une importance politique au-delà du dossier Mladić. Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec vous. Il est clair que l'arrestation de Mladić aujourd'hui donne le signal clair et fort qu'il n'y a plus de place pour l'impunité et que tôt ou tard, ceux poursuivis pour des crimes de guerre, pour le génocide, pour les crimes contre l'humanité, doivent faire face à la justice. Donc je comprends tout à fait que cela est aussi un signal fort par rapport à d'autres fugitifs recherchés par d'autres tribunaux. Tu peux... Please, yeah, okay, let's... one of them, please. Where's the micro?
Yeah, the mic is in my hand.
Okay, so you have the power, please.
Jovica Gojgić, B92 Belgrade. Are you going to amend, in a few days you are going to New York, you will speak before Security Council. Are you going to amend the report that you sent a couple of weeks ago in which you were quite critical when it comes to Serbia and its cooperation with the tribunal? Thank you.
The report sent 3 weeks ago to New York reflected our objective analysis of the cooperation on the ground. As you know, over the last 3 reports, we have been more and more critical in relation to the non-arrest of the fugitives, and we have been critical in relation to the speed of the investigation. We were saying that the authorities have to work on avenues simultaneously and on one after the other. We have said that a more multidisciplinary approach is needed. What we have seen now more recently is indeed that, for example, the police services have been more involved, that the investigation was broadened and a number of additional avenues have been added. So there is no reason for me to change the critical written report submitted. Having said that, it is obvious, as I've said it today, that we will recognize that by arresting Mladić, Serbia has fulfilled one of its major international obligations. So I will for sure mention this in a very, very positive sense in the Security Council.
Thank you. Bruno Waterfield for Daily Telegraph. Could you tell us whether it is your aim or even your hope that perhaps General Mladić could be in the dock together with Radovan Karadzic to face charges such as the massacre and Srebrenica? And just also in terms of Serbia and compliance, there are very persistent reports that Mladić was receiving medical treatment pretty recently and that some kind of deal was cut. Have you asked Belgrade for assurances that no such deal will emerge that could undermine this tribunal?
In relation to your first question, in 2008, 21 July 2008, when Karadzic was arrested, we were all hoping that the arrest of Mladić would follow. Because it is logical for us at the tribunal and for the victims to see both together facing their judges, one being allegedly the political architect of the crimes committed in Bosnia, the other being the highest military commander of the same crimes. Unfortunately, for the reasons you know, this has not been possible, and the Karadzic trial is now ongoing for 1.5 years. Based on the rules of proceedings, it's still theoretically possible to envisage a partial joinder. No decision has been taken in this regard. I'm not saying at all that this is a likely possibility, but it's at least a theoretical one, but we have to look into this issue. What we have today is an operative indictment, which has been filed this morning, is, as I explained, an indictment which is very much mirroring the charges brought against Karadzic, because, as I said, the crime base, the crimes allegedly committed are the same. In relation to your second question, do we know what happened over the last months and years? It's really too early for me to say. We only know where Mladić was until 2006. It has been reconstructed where his whereabouts were in the period prior to 2006. As you know, we went to many different phases, from being after 95 in the open for a number of years, being in military compounds, then disappearing, but still having a lot of support also from the political class. I have today no information, no details I can communicate in relation to his whereabouts between 2006 and today. Of course, we have asked the Serbian authorities, and they will also do it based on their own responsibility. They will verify how he could hide over the last years, but a number of verifications are ongoing, and it's too early for me to comment.
Emma Alberici from ABC Australia. Can you tell us, first of all, what your reaction was to hearing that the Serb authorities had allowed Mr. Mladic to go to the gravesite of his daughters, whether you thought that was appropriate, because there's been quite an outrage from the victims who obviously haven't been granted that same privilege of saying goodbye to their loved ones. The second thing was, how long do you realistically expect this trial to take? And should he be sentenced, where do you expect him to serve that sentence? Thank you.
I have not really an opinion to express on the first question. I fully understand the reactions by the victims, and I understand that the trauma of the war they went through, and the fact that for many of them, they even don't know today where their sons and their husbands are. So I fully understand their reaction. But it's really the responsibility of the Serbian authorities to take this kind of decision, and I do not want to comment on that. In terms of time frame for a trial, it's really very difficult to say. I would say it's really not in the hands, or entirely in the hands of the prosecution. We filed our amended indictment. It is clear that the evidence we intend to present is largely evidence which has already been prepared and presented in previous cases. But it is clear, as I have said, the rights of defense have to be respected also in this case. We want that the accused has the time necessary to prepare his defense, to look into the supporting material, to put together a defense team. So it's very difficult for me to speculate on a time frame. Currently, the tribunal has agreements with a number of countries where sentences are served, but those decisions are only taken once there is a conviction. So it's much too early to answer in this regard, but it's also not the responsibility of the prosecutor to deal with those issues. Perhaps the registrar can explain you more in detail how the proceedings works. Mirko.
Mirko Klarin, Sense News Agency. You said, Mr. Prosecutor, that you want to present a manageable case. And then you said that the new amended indictment mirrors Karadzic's indictment. And then you also said that Karadzic's trial is going on for 1.5 years. And we are roughly now on the 1/3 of the prosecution case, of the presentation of the prosecution's evidence. So, do you think this will be manageable for Ratko Mladić, first of all? And second, are you contemplating maybe to divide those 4 joint criminal enterprises for which Mladić is charged with on 4 different trials? Let's say one starting with Srebrenica, then Sarajevo, then ethnic cleansing, and finally UN hostages. Something like it was done with the Saddam Hussein case.
Yeah. The indictment which has been filed today has been prepared and put before the judges more than a year ago. It was done in the absence of Mladić and with the clear prospect and objective to put the 2 cases together on very short notice if and when Mladić is arrested. So in this sense, it's absolutely logic that the current operative indictment reflects the same charges as the one Karadzic is charged with. You have indeed correctly understood that I've said we want a manageable case. We want to take a number of factors into consideration. We don't know how the accused will organize his defense. We have not all the details on his health situations. That's why please understand that I'm very, very careful in expressing any opinion or decision in relation to a future amendment. It's for sure a possibility. We are, of course, what is expected from us, looking in a number of possible avenues. There are a number of possibilities, but please understand that it's much too early to take any decision in this regard, and ultimately, it's anyway a decision for the judges. Yeah, please.
Matthijs van der Wiel, NOS Radio. I would like your opinion on the appointed trial chamber, because Mr. Ori was criticized 3 years ago for various reasons by Mr. Karadzic before being removed from the trial. And Mr. Flüge is criticized right now by the victims for another reason. And my question is, do you think a trial chamber in a case important like this one should be undisputed, yes or not?
Look, you are probably not expecting that I'm giving comments on judges being appointed by the acting president. We fully respect the independence and the job of our judges. All the judges this tribunal, I think, are very respectful and very, very competent individuals. I'm also used to be criticized by one part or by the others. It's unfortunately a part of our job. But I'm really not making any comment in relation to the issues you are mentioning. Yeah.
Douglas Hamilton, Reuters. Mr. Brammertz, would the prosecution accept or object to an independent medical examination of Mladić?
I mean, you can ask this question to the registrar. It is obvious that Mladić will receive all the medical treatment necessary. But it's really not up to the office of the prosecutor. We are one party in the proceedings to be in any way involved in those issues. But the registrar will for sure speak about this issue.
Thank you. Sergio Cantone from Euronews. You have mentioned the importance of the cooperation with the international community. Do you think this cooperation is going to be essential in terms of shaping the evidences in this trial? Thank you.
The support by the international community, you said? Yeah. I mean, the support of the international community, of course, is on one hand in relation to the arrest. As I mentioned, this was very instrumental and very important. But of course, we need the support of the international community in relation to the trial. First of all, we receive the budget necessary to do this job. As you know, we are in a completion strategy phase. We are reducing the number of staff. We have a reduced budget every year. So now it's of course important that the international community, which is now, as we are very pleased with the arrest of Mladić, will also give us the necessary financial means in order to have this trial conducted. And of course, we will still need members of the international community as witnesses in court. You know, we have many international observers, people on the ground who have played an important role in previous trials, and this will also be the case for this one.
Alvise Armelini from the German press agency DPA. Considering how long the Karadzic trial is taking, do you consider at all realistic that you might be able to conclude the Mladić trial before 2014, or do you think you might have to ask for another extension of the ICTY tribunal? Thank you.
It's too early to say if the trial as such will have repercussions of the lifetime of the tribunal. We have to see. It's really difficult to say at this stage.
Some people in the Thomas Miglierina, Swiss Radio Television, some people in the European Union say that now we have to reward Serbia for what they've done. Given that there is still Hadzic at large, do you think this is premature? And would you appeal Mr. Hadzic to surrender? Do you think that now that you got to Mladić, you might do it?
Look, we have, over the last months and years, always said that the support by the international community, and especially the conditionality policy of the European Union, has been really instrumental in achieving arrests in the past, and we are absolutely convinced that this also played a very important role for the arrest of Mladić. We have submitted our written report recently. I will submit my oral report to the Security Council coming Monday. We have done our part of the job. It's now to the political level, to the politicians to decide what political weight to give to this arrest, at the same time recognizing that there is still one fugitive at large who has to be arrested as soon as possible. You know, we are every day in contact with our operational counterparts on the ground. I'm cautiously optimistic that we will have results in this regard too, but I'm absolutely not in a position to give any timeline or concrete answer in this regard. We can take 2-3 more, yes. Right.
Stans, BNR, Dutch National Radio. Mr. Brammertz, you thanked many authorities over the years for keeping pressure in all those years, but in your opinion, could Mr. Mladić have been arrested earlier?
Could have been arrested earlier, of course. He could have been arrested 16 years ago, and this would have been the only good solution. So it is taking place very late, but not too late. So we are happy that today this arrest could take place, but I would have preferred also a less painful process to go through over the last years. Who is there to blame for? You know, today is not the day where I want to blame people in relation to that. We have said on many times what we want Serbia to do is to prosecute those who have been identified in being members of the fugitive networks. We want that Serbia verifies what happened in 2006. We want Serbia to verify who, over the last 5 years, has been instrumental in helping Mladić hiding, and of course we want them to be accountable. It's very difficult for me to give names or to say who is today responsible. We all know that in Serbia you have different tendencies and different forces, and we are today very pleased that those who are supportive for international justice, those who were believing that they had to fulfill these obligations, and those on the ground, our operational counterparts, have finally been successful in doing their job.
We have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Brammertz, Markus Preis, ARD German TV. I have 2 questions. The first one, from your perspective, is it easier to go to the court against somebody who was really part of the military forces compared with a politician, because there were several judgments already quite difficult? And the second question, you mentioned the international cooperation. Could you elaborate a little bit on who was especially helpful and what was especially helpful from the European Union, and what would happen without these international corporations?
Can you repeat the first one, please?
Do you think it's easier to go to...
Okay. You know, at this tribunal, on a number of occasions, there have been cases in relation to the political leadership and the military leadership. They are different in nature, different in terms of establishing command or political responsibility, but I would not say that one is necessarily more difficult than the other. Second question, how has the international community really been instrumental? You know, in a country where the majority of the population, very unfortunately, are against the arrest of fugitives, for the wrong reasons, because, you know, we have said, and we are trying to explain this also to Serbia, explaining that this tribunal is not anti-Serb, anti-Croat, or anti-Bosniak, that we are only trying to bring those to justice who have individual criminal responsibility. So in a country where you have a large resistance in the public opinion in relation to arrests, it's very, very important that those in the community who are supportive are supported politically from outside. And as I said, the conditionality policy linking the enlargement process directly to the obligation of cooperation has been very important. You know, in October last year, the Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs at the European Union insisted very much on having the conditionality policy maintained in all next levels of process for Serbia, and had said very clearly that the best proof of full cooperation would be the arrest of the 2 remaining fugitives. So I think that those political incentives, if not to say pressure, have been very instrumental. I thank you very much for your interest and your questions. Okay, I'll take a last one, and then I'll leave the floor to the registrar, who must be... Okay.
Kees van Dam, NOS Television, the Netherlands. You said you are very grateful for the way the Dutch authorities brought Mr. Mladić to the prison here. Can you imagine that the families of the victims were not so grateful? They said they are a bit disappointed that it appears that the guarding of the privacy of the suspect is more important than the satisfaction they have for seeing someone going unguarded and in the view of all cameras into prison?
You know, as I said, if there is one group of persons who have the right to be frustrated that it took so long, those are the victims. You know, I've been myself more than 10 times in Bosnia. I've been to Srebrenica, and I've said it on many occasions that for many of those families, their lives were totally destroyed 15 years ago. And even if for many people in the international community today, those crimes are part of the past, for the victims, since the day of the crimes, this is the center of their life, yesterday, today, and also tomorrow. So I fully understand their frustration. I fully understand that they would have preferred that many of the victims which died in the meantime would have seen Mladić being in The Hague. But again, you know, we have now as international community to show that the highest international standards are respected in having Mladić prosecuted. This is one of our principal obligations. I think this is our duty, and this is for sure what will happen in the coming weeks and months.
And that's why you kept them out of sight of the cameras?
Look, I cannot comment on where the cameras was or what concrete arrangements have been made, but you have to be aware that the transfer of an accused, for sure, if it's a high-level accused like Mladić, is a very sensitive issue, where public order is one of the important issues. You have seen how the Serbian authorities have handled it yesterday, and I think that the Dutch authorities have done really an excellent job in having this transfer implemented on such short notice and in such professional manner. Thank you very much.